Hey guys, Matthew here. So today I'll bring you this league's episode of the how I made X amount of currency in X amount of time. Except that's actually not true. I'll bring you episode number 12 of the BTB series, and we're going to be talking about Blade Vortex bows. That being said, going back to my little joke, I did somehow go from about 100x or so, 150 to like 3 mirrors and 300x in the span of a week and a half or something like that. I'm not exactly sure, but it was very, very quick. So if you guys are interested in knowing how that happened, let me know in the comment section and I'll make the video about that. The reason I didn't make a video this league about how I made X amount of currency in the first week of the league or so is simply because I didn't focus on making currency in the first week of the league, to be completely honest. Actually, I didn't focus on making currency for the entire league at all. And the only reason I have this much currency right now, for the most part, is just from organically as I was playing the game, streaming, teaching people things, crafting stuff by showing people how to craft different things on stream and whatnot. Currency accumulated over time, and now it's been about a month or so into the league, and we have yet about 4.5 pure mirrors and another mirror and a half or so in sales. So a decent little chunk of currency, if I may. So if you have an interest in that, let me know in the comment section. Otherwise, let's get into how to craft BV bows. So I posted the question of asking you guys what did you want to see next in the crafting series, and BV bows did have the most votes compared to anything else. So we're gonna go ahead and jump on PoE Ninja and see how many people are actually playing Blade Vortex. So it seems to be about 6%. So this is 6% of the top 10 to 15% of the actual player base. So in reality, there's a lot more people actually playing Blade Vortex, but about 6% of, you could say, the high-end players are playing Blade Vortex. Within these 6%, there is a total of 26% using bows. So it's not like a majority or anything like that, but it is the second most used thing after Mace and Shield, and Mace and Shield is for the ore stacking build, so they don't really matter in this case. So when we go to BV bows, if we sort by DPS, we can have a look at what the higher end DPS users are using, and it seems like they're using a recurve bow with level of strength, dex, or dex and just socketed gems, plus 2 support gems, stuff like that. Chance to deal double damage, penetration, these kind of mods. But what seems to be a common denominator here is the socketed either dexterity or strength gems, the socketed gems, and then the socketed support gems, which is on every single one of these players. So that does tell us quite a bit of information. We know that they're going to want to use a bow. And these bows are going to be crafted in a very special way. This is why this video is going to be fairly long, because I want to go step by step into how to make these bows from the conceptual to the actual bow being made itself and crafted. Because by going over step by step through the entire process, you guys can actually apply this method to multiple different things, because it doesn't simply apply to bows. Anyways, so let's have a look at what we have in terms of potential bows to use. All the bows are not going to affect Blade Vortex in of itself, be it attack speed, physical damage, whatever. It just won't affect it. So the only thing we're looking at really are the implicits. We do have percent movement speed, which is not bad at all. Critical strike chance does not apply, because that is a local mod applying to the bow, which means it doesn't apply to the spells, which BV is a spell. Elemental damage with attack seals doesn't apply, it's not an attack. And then we do have the implicit that is, in my opinion, the best, which is going to be critical strike multiplier. So which bases do we have available for critical strike multiplier? It seems like we have 3 of them: the assassin's bow, the sniper bow, and the recurve bow. So there's a couple things we're going to be looking for here. The first thing is going to be, does this bow base have a unique variant? If so, can we get it through divination cards? I'm going to be going over this through the video. You don't have to worry about it if you're, kind of wondering what the heck I'm talking about. So, assassin's bow requires level 62 and 212 dexterity requirement. That's a problem. That's a problem because 212 dexterity requirement is not a problem in and of itself when it comes to Blade Vortex, but it is a problem when it comes to other skills that would use bows like this, such as Eddy, Contagion, Bane, Toxic Rain. Well, not Toxic Rain. That wouldn't really be an issue because they have more than enough dex. But Eddy, Contagion, and Bane would also use these kind of bows, and for them, 212 dexterity is a lot of dexterity, so this would be a suboptimal base that we don't really want to use. That being said, if we were forced into using them, we do have some unique variants. Arborix is a vendor recipe, so we cannot use that. Darkscorn we could use, and Chinsol we could use. Darkscorn would be kind of hard to use because it is a league-specific unique, so we can't get it from the common divination cards such as Hunter's Resolve, which I'll be getting into in a second. So Sniper Bow, not exactly the best potential base. Or sorry, Assassin's Bow, not exactly the best potential base. Now the next base is going to be Sniper's Bow. The problem with Sniper's Bow is that there isn't any unique for this bow. While the dexterity requirement is not that high, the fact that there is no uniques means that we cannot do the divination card turn-in. A recurve bow does have a divination card for its unique variation, its unique variant, which is Hunter's Resolve. It is item level 18 with 65 dexterity requirement, which makes it a perfect bow for what we're doing. It can apply to any spellcaster in the game because obviously 65 dexterity is not that much, and its unique variant, Roth's Reach, is a very, very common unique. So when you are turning in sets of div cards for it, it is a fairly high chance that you're actually going to get it, or if you're using Ancient Orbs to try to get it, it's very likely that you are going to get it because it is a very common bow. Now, let me get into why I'm talking about this whole divination card stuff. So there is, as I said, the requirement for a recurve bow is require level 18, which means if you wanted a level 1 recurve bow, it would be impossible to get in normal natural way, such as killing monsters. But there is one hidden method, if you will, within the game, and that is divination card turn-ins. So if I was to take a set of Hunter's Resolve cards, which is a set of egg cards that gives me a random unique bow, I can get the Roth's Reach bow as an outcome of that. Or whatever other outcome I can get, I can also use Ancient Orbs to turn into a Roth's Reach. Now, the reason why this is important is because when you turn in a set of divination cards turn-ins are based on the level of your character, not on the level of the outcome. Which means that technically, you can get an item level 1 bow despite the fact that a recurve bow should be minimum item level 18. So if I make a character right now, I kill Hillock, and then I use a Book of Regression, which by the way is an Orb of Scouring alongside a Scroll of Wisdom vendor to a vendor of any kind. It gives you a Book of Regressions, which allows you to de-level yourself, essentially. If I did that on a level 2 character, I could get myself a level 1 character. By turning in the divination card on that level 1 character, I would be able to get a level 1 outcome, which in this case would hopefully be a Roth's Reach, but it could be anything else from the Hunter's Resolve divination card. Now, why is level 1 important? I'll get into it. But first, we need to know how do we actually turn a unique into a usable crafting base. So if you use a Valorb on a unique, or anything in the game anyways, you can have a 25% chance, of turning your item into a rare. I have a couple examples of this here in my stash. If I take a couple of these short bows, you'll see that this bow here, if I click over, and this one too, are both actually Quill Rains. They are Quill Rains, but that were actually turned into rare bows by using a Valorb on them and corrupting them. So I have here 5 different short bows of different item levels. I have an item level 13, 5, 100, 100, and 5. So if I was to sell all these 5 bows, which 2 of them are corrupted, the outcome that I'm given is a short bow that is not corrupted of the lowest item level of the bunch. So if one of these short bows was actually item level 1, the return from the vendor would be a short bow of item level 1, uncorrupted and also rare because all the other bows are rare. you don't need every single bow to be corrupted. I think that is something community-wise that is regarded as true, but that is actually false. You don't need every single item to be corrupted. Only one of them to be corrupted for the outcome to be uncorrupted. That's basically what you do. So you'd go ahead and turn in these 5 bows, which in this case would be recurve bows, because you're going for a Roth's Reach, which would be 5 recurve bows, and the item level, if the Roth's Reach was level 1, would be the vendor would give you a rare, non-corrupted item level 1 recurve bow. And time to get into why that's important. So first off, what we need to look at is what are we trying to get when it comes to crafting bows. So if we go on PoEDB here under the mod section and we look at bows, we'll see that what we're trying to do when we're trying to craft these bows is to get the level of either socketed gems, right? Strength, dex, and intelligence gems, which are only available through the faceted fossil, as you can see right here. So you're only ever going to get that through faceted fossil, and then the rest is mostly going to be crafted modifiers. So if we hop on Craft of Exile, we can have a look at how we would go ahead and craft a bow like this. So if we use the highest item level with no influence, because as we stated, the bow that we'd be crafting would be item level 1, and all the influence mods are a higher item level, which means there's basically no reason to ever use an influence bow. Actually, you couldn't even if you wanted to, because to use a Conqueror's Exalted, you actually need the item to be, you know, over item level 50. That being said, you could do the same thing that I said about vendoring a unique item that's corrupted. You could also do the same thing in the temple by corrupting a very low item, which one of the outcomes when corrupting an item that is very, very low item level, or of any item actually for that matter, is going to be that the item is going to have a random influence to it, which is then can be vendored to make a clean base. So that way you can get very, very low item level influenced items, but there is no real use to that since, well, you wouldn't be able to roll the affixes on the item given the low item level. It would just be a shiny item. Anyways, back to our bow crafting. When it comes to crafting these bows, as I said earlier, we do need to use faceted fossils. That is not a choice. We don't have a choice but to use these. Now, the problem here is that the odds of getting these specific mods that we really care about are very low. The odds overall to get any of these suffixes are 8.3%, followed by about 4 and 4%, which is really not very great. We can increase these odds by blocking all of the elemental modifiers by using a corroded fossil, but then it gives us the bleeding and poison damage times 10 to their weighting, which means that in reality we actually make it harder for us to hit the desired modifiers by using simply corroded, but by throwing a prismatic on top of that, the odds once again go back up, and we're looking at 11%, 5%, and 5%. Which is better than what we started off with. And we can make that quite a bit better by using a metallic fossil, because then we block all the physical and bleeding modifiers by also getting more lightning modifiers, but the more lightning modifiers is already blocked by the corroded fossils, so it is simply acting as a block, and in this case we reach 13%, 6%, and 6%, which is almost double what we started with. Now, that being said, what's way more interesting is if we were to do this on a level 1 bow. Now, the odds of actually getting socketed dexterity, intelligence, and strength gems are like 40%, 20%, and 20%, meaning it's almost impossible to not roll any of them. Literally, it's almost impossible to not roll any of them. Another interesting fact here is that when you're using an item level 1 bow, the combination of fossils is not as strict either, because poison and bleeding modifiers and all that stuff is very high item level for the most part. We can't roll that on a level 1 bow already, so we do not need to use a prismatic to basically block off the damage to bleeding and poison, because it's already blocked off by the item level of the weapon, which in this case makes it so you really only need to use corroded and faceted, because the other stuff is very, very unlikely to show up. That being said, if you want to play it safe, I would highly recommend using a metallic fossil, because in this case, you would block all the physical modifiers, which are prefixes. And getting a clean base with no prefixes is actually quite important when crafting these bows, because you're going to be wanting to mostly craft prefixes when it comes to the bench mods, such as +2 level of socketed gems. +2 level of socketed support gems is one of the most important crafts here. So by doing this, you end up with no prefixes, which is optimal. And as you can see, we are only using a 3-socket resonator, which is much cheaper and much less of a pain in the ass to purchase than 4-socket resonators. So that is a very good plus bonus advantage for us. If you still wanted to play it even safer to increase the odds of getting all of these modifiers, we can actually block off most of the suffixes while they already have such a very, very low weight. We can decrease these weightings even more by using an etheric fossil, which instead of, for example, getting a 2% chance to roll attack speed, we end up with a 0.45%, which once again increases the odds of rolling some of these socketed gems. For example, if we wanted to roll Etheric, Corroded, Faceted, and Metallic on a level 1 bow, the odds of getting all 3 Dexterity, Intelligence, and Strength gems would be every 2 tries. If we were to take out Etheric, it would be every 3 tries. And given the fact that the faceted fossils are typically on the around 2 exalts or so, it is much, much cheaper to simply use a 4-socket resonator and to use faceted. You would save yourself about 30% of the cost, which is quite considerable when you think about how expensive faceted fossils are. So in my opinion, this is the most optimal combination: etheric, corroded, faceted, and metallic. So by doing that, you would end up with mostly just the level of socketed dexterity, intelligence, and strength gems, and quite frankly, nothing else when rolling your bow. Now, the thing you might be wondering, though, is how do I get level of socketed gems? Because earlier I was saying that one of the most important stats that all of these bows had in common when we were looking at the profiles of the highest damage BV players with bows, they all had level of socketed gems. And as you can see here, level of socketed gems is an item level 50 mod. I'm not sure if you can see this under the line that is barring it, but it is a level 50 mod. And that is fairly problematic, because in this case, if it's an item level 50 mod, we can't roll it on a level 1 bow. But there is another hidden mechanic, if you will, that is that when beastcrafting, the outcome takes the item level of the beast and not of the actual item that you are crafting, which is a very obscure mechanic. It's been in the game ever since Bestiary. I'm pretty sure the devs know about it. It's been on Reddit multiple times. That being said, it might not be intended, but in my opinion, it probably is, just because of the fact that, like I said, it's been talked about so many times. But it is still a very unknown thing, the fact that the beasts actually take over when beastcrafting compared to the item level of the item, which is completely ignored when it comes to the mods that you can put on the item. So if I go ahead and jump onto PoEDB here and go back to the bow section, this is fairly annoying. If I go back to the bow section here, you'll see that if I look at the prefixes of a bow, most of these prefixes are all attacks, right? Every single one of them has an attack tag, except 2 of them, level of socketed gems and level of socketed bow gems. But level of socketed bow gems actually has a sub-tag, if you will, or a subcategory, which is also an attack. So if you craft cannot roll attack modifiers on a bow, and you get a prefix by either slamming exalt or beastcrafting it, whatever you will, however you want to go about it, the only outcome that you can actually get is level of socketed gems. So despite the fact that your bow would be item level 1, if you are using a beast that is over item level 50 and you have cannot roll attack mods and you beastcraft your bow, the only outcome that will ever happen will be +1 level of socketed gems, which is a very interesting mechanic. Now if you're wondering which beast this is, that would be a Ferric Wolf Alpha. Ferric Wolf Alpha. Ferric Wolf Alpha. The Ferric Wolf Alpha adds a prefix and removes a random suffix, which means it would remove any random suffix from your bow, and as so long as you have cannot roll attack modifiers, it would add a prefix. Meaning that if you had 2 of these modifiers here, level of strength, dex, or intelligence gems, any two of them, and then level of socketed, and then cannot roll attack modifiers, and you beastcrafted it, it would have a 60% chance of hitting one of your level of socketed roll, and then a 33% chance, or 1 in 3% chance to actually hit the crafting modifier, which would be cannot roll attack modifier. That would be the best potential outcome, hitting the cannot roll attack modifiers, but 2 out of 3 times you're actually going to hit either the dexterity mod, the intelligence, or the strength mod, meaning you're only going to be left with one of these, so either strength, dexterity, or intelligence, and then you'll be left with, you know, your prefix, which would be +1 socketed gems, and then you would have to multi-mod your bow to finish it with whatever fits your fancy. What's interesting about this is that might sound like pretty bad odds. 2 out of 3 chance to brick your item and turn it into a single plus level of socketed gems, be it dexterity, intelligence, or strength, and then only a 1 in 3 chance to actually keep 2 of them. But what's interesting is that since we are using a recurve bow, which is a very low item level bow, very low dexterity requirement bow, it can be used and turned into a bow for not only Blade Vortex, but also things like Essence Drain, Contagion, or Bane, and whatnot. So if you get, let's say, only Intelligence gems with +1 socketed gems, that can easily be turned into an ED Contagion bow by crafting, you know, damage over time multiplier prefix alongside +2 level of socketed support gems, which is also a prefix. And that will sell for just as much as if you had a dexterity only gems, which then would be used for Blade Vortex in this case. The strength gems can be used for any build because they use it for the empower, giving their empower +1, which is the equivalent of giving every single gem in their links +1, so long as they roll with empower. And all of these spells, be it Blade Vortex or empower, Bane, whatever, they all roll with an empower gem. So that is not a problem. Essentially, that would be exactly how you would craft one of these bows from beginning to end. If you're wondering what the end of that, the end result would be, we can go ahead and jump on the official trading website and have a look. So we would be looking at level of socketed gems, level of socketed, for example, strength gems, level of socketed dexterity gems, level of socketed intelligence gems, and then we would make a combination of any of these 3 modifiers, well, any of these 2 plus socketed gems, or any of these modifiers single, just 1 modifier alongside +1 socketed gems, and we'd see that, for example, +1 strength on a 6-link bow, very important that it is 6-link, on a 6-link bow is a minimum of 4 exalts, while if it is only dexterity gems, it'll be more like 2 exalts, which would be the worst potential outcome, and then intelligence would be more like halfway within 3 or 4 exalts, and then the jackpot would be hitting, for example, strength and intelligence for something like Essence Drain, Contagion, and as you can see, those are like 15, 18, 20 exalts, and strength and dexterity would be really good for Blade Vortex around the 20 exalt mark. And then, of course, one thing that would also be possible would be dexterity and intelligence, and that would be a little bit of a weird one, but still sells for a fair bit. Now, another thing that you would note here is that you would also can have up to 3 crafted modifiers, because you are rolling no prefixes on the bow, so actually finishing it with a multi-mod is very, very easy, which once again will increase the worth of your bow by a fair bit. As you can see, 9 exalt for just strength, dexterity, 8 exalts, and intelligence probably about the same, 8 to 10 exalts or so. And then when you get any of these 2 together, you're looking at 25, 30 exalts, and so on. So very, very lucrative craft, especially earlier in the stages of a league. And so basically that's how you go about it. Now, if I was to show you guys that I can put an item level of maximum 1 and minimum 1, then it would only show me bows that have all these crafts that are actually level 1, and what do you know, they're all recurve bows, just like the example that I've been giving you for this whole video. Now, the thing that's important to note about these bows is that they're fairly hard to make at the first time. Making the actual base that you're going to keep duping is fairly difficult. It's a little bit annoying because you have to go through so many divination cards. But once you have the base, you can simply dupe it by using a Phenomenal Plagued Arachnid. Phenomenal Plagued Arachnid. And by using this beast, it allows you to split the bow into two, so long as it's got 2 modifiers or more. 2 modifiers or more can be any amount of modifiers. There's just got to be at least 2 modifiers on it to be able to split. So the best way to go about this is that you would get a recurve bow of item level 1, roll 3 sockets on it. By rolling 3 sockets on it, because it is an item level 1, it can have 3 sockets. You would then use a white bench on it to get the 3 first sockets as white sockets, and then you would use the bench to do 4 sockets, 5 sockets, and 6 sockets, and then you would either spam fusings or use the bench to 6-link the bow, depending on whatever you want, and then you would have a 6-link that you could dupe forever that would always be item level 1, that you would always be able to craft, such just like I mentioned in this video. So if you're looking into potentially crafting these, it is a very good craft. It is worth, these bows sell fairly well because they can be used for a lot of different builds. So that's basically all I had when it comes to crafting BV bows. Before I go though, I do want to say a huge thank you to my patrons. Eddy, Emil, Jimmy, Neko, Sean, Tim. I'm sorry I can't read your name, but it's something in Russian, I imagine. Olow, Drew, KFish, Jason, Casticus, Lars, Mathis, Nicolas, MrCoffee, and Jared. Thank you guys all so much for the support. You guys are basically the people who make this possible, alongside all the support from Twitch, be it subscribers and whatnot. So thank you guys all so much for the support. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed the video. I heard you learned a little something. If there's anything in this video that was a little bit confusing or whatnot, feel free to ask me in the comment section. I always try to respond to as many comments as possible. I know this was a fairly long video, but this is a pretty obscure craft, especially from beginning to end. So hopefully this made it as clear as possible. And when you see these weird bases that are item level 1, you now know exactly how to make them. Hopefully you enjoyed, and that's going to be Matthew signing out. Until the next one. Peace.